Hi, welcome to Talking Books and Stuff, the program that talks all about books and writing and stuff. Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
Welcome back. It's another edition of Talking Books and Writing and Stuff. And on the line with us today from there in Langley, BC, in that area, we have Connor Jackson. He's going to tell us all about the Chain of Worlds series, especially Book 1, The Bindings of Woe. So, Connor, how you doing these days?
Oh, hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to the call here.
Well, that's good. Let's get right into it. So, what inspired you, first of all, to pursue writing, and especially such a fantasy-type world as you have outlined here in The Bindings of Woe and the Chain of Worlds series? What got you started on all of that?
I'd say at a young age, I was just always into fantasy. You know, growing up at the time of the Lord of the Rings movies coming out and the video game industry taking off, sort of got me into fantasy stories at a very young age. And over time, I was just kind of always a storyteller in my head. I was like, you know, making up my own battle scenes, inspired from movies I saw, and I'd make up my own characters and kind of a mess of random stuff as a kid, right? But as I got older, I kind of kept doing that, and I started making more coherent scenes and more coherent reasons for the random battles in my head, and I'd have consistent characters, and it got to the point where I was slowly but surely over many years kind of crafting little short stories in my head. And then as I got even older, I started expanding those into longer stories. And, you know, it was always just kind of in the back of my mind. But when I was going to university and I kind of wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life and my original goals, I kind of decided I wasn't for me. I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to write. I could tell this story in any medium. And, you know, I've always thought about being a writer, but I kind of always, you know, shoot it off as not like a real idea. But, you know, I'm young, I have all this time, like, why not? And I just kind of, for no reason in particular, I just jumped on it. Because I had the support of my family and my girlfriend at the time, and I just started because I had like a quick passion for it, and it really was the right decision, I think.
So the book itself, now obviously you have a series going on here, is that right?
Yes, that's my intent. I want to have a few books.
So the Bindings of Woe starts us off, and the world of Gaia is in turmoil, as you tell us on the back cover. Humans, goblins, and dwarves try to save their lives as best they can under the rule of the sovereigns. So obviously, like you said, you had some influences with Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and Star Trek and video games and stuff. But
yeah.
Is there any one reason why you really had to get this story out there?
I would say for me personally, it was that I found, especially in my more adult years, with media and with like fantasy and fiction, I was constantly critiquing other people's work and always saying like, oh, I wish I made this so that I could have done it this way, or if I had done this, I would have done it like that. And I found that a lot of the time I was really picking apart other people's stuff. And then it got to the point where I realized, like, why don't I make my own thing, right? And that's one of the big reasons that kind of kicked me into gear for wanting to really write in the early phase, because it was like I was kind of going crazy that I had all this creativity in my head and I was putting it on other things that weren't mine. And yeah, I just, you know what, I saw how cool all this stuff was and I wanted to try it, and I wanted to be able to, you know, put all my criticism and all my ideas and all my, what I would do with this cliche or with this type of dynamic into my own work and really have something of my own out there. So that was a big thing for me.
And do you have a writing schedule these days, or is it catch as catch can?
It's sort of sketch to sketch, but mostly I try to keep a schedule. Typically I wake up, you know, decently early. I try to get up around 6:30 or 7. Kind of putz around a bit, have breakfast, you know, play a game for a bit, just try to get inspired, try to, you know, relax and get to the creative mind space, and then I get to work and I try to write for as long as possible. Try to make it like a work day, you know, like between 4 and 6 hours is the average, but sometimes I can go for longer, but some days I can't do anything, you know?
Right.
And I just do my best. I'm more of a morning guy, early midday guy.
And how long did it actually take you from start to finish to get your finished product, The Bindings of Woe, out there?
Oh, this one, it was a lot longer than I think it should have been. It was about 5 or 6 years. But it was mainly due to the fact that the first year or two, it was more than just writing. I had to like really take all those ideas in my head that I had come up with over 2 decades and really flatten them out, make them make sense, connect them, and like really, there was a lot of stuff I hadn't figured out. So I was a lot of crafting, and I had to invent the world more detailed, all the histories and religions and cultures. And so that took a while. And then, working on the map of the world, that took like a year on its own. And then the actual writing process, about 2 years, 2.5. And then the publishing process was about a year. So all in all, it was a much bigger mountain to climb. But I'm hoping in the future, the other ones will not take nearly that long, because the world building is done, the map is mostly done, that kind of stuff. And now it's mostly just working on the actual writing itself, so it shouldn't be nearly as long.
At least that's what we're hoping.
That's what I'm hoping
that's
for.
What,
yeah, it was a long time.
So I'm assuming then you wrote from notes and outlines and plot diagrams. Obviously, if you had to create a world, the opening pages, we have a map of the coastlands and the isles and the West Isle and the Great Ocean and the Gulf of Blades and the World's End, the Munchkins. So yeah, you got a lot of work there.
I've got a mountain of notes.
So you didn't just start by the seat of your pants. You obviously had an outline and a plan when you started writing.
And in high school, I took a lot of film classes, and that helped me a lot because I learned about not only screenplays, which was very dialogue heavy. I learned about storyboarding. Right. In film, you have to like draw a picture of your scene, and you say like in this scene, like point form, like this happens, and then that, and you kind of like quickly go through a whole film. And I applied that to my writing, where I made storyboards, and I would even draw little pictures of like what the scene kind of entailed, and then I would draw quick bullet point forms for the whole book or for the series, and I really worked my way through it as if I was writing a movie, and that really helped me, and it just totally made the process a lot easier. And then I made it more detailed. I took my storyboard and I stretched it out into longer pages of notes of like writing paragraphs of what would happen, and then I would take those and then turn them into actual scenes, and then write the novel from scratch with that on the side.
I've heard this before about the storyboards, and that's why I guess a lot of graphic novels lend themselves more easily to movies, because the storyboard's right there anyway.
I think film definitely can help writers. Like if you get a background in film, or if you learn some of the tricks of the trade, it's a big boon, right? Especially you write dialogue, like the whole screenplay thing, right? You're just doing nothing but writing dialogue and imagining where characters are and what they look like and how they move from one part to another. Applies directly to prose, in my opinion, from my experience.
When you were a kid, what was your favorite movie, or do you have more than one?
I'm not much of a movie guy anymore, but back in the day, I definitely, the Lord of the Rings trilogy was big for me. I've watched that as like almost every year as a teenager. I'd sit down and watch all the extended editions. I loved the movie 300. I don't know. I didn't watch too many movies, but the ones I liked, I would constantly rewatch,
Right. And how about books? Did you, Lord of the Rings, I would imagine?
Oddly enough, I wasn't much of a reader as a child. I was the kid who I was just doing nothing but playing video games, and my mom had to force me to like read a book, an hour a day. But I did get into it. I really liked the How to Train Your Dragon book series. I read one of my favorite books as a kid was actually Ulysses: The Odyssey. I had to read it for school, and I fell in love with the book. I like the Greek mythology of like all that, and the sirens calling the ships over, and the Cyclops in the cave. And then since then, I've been trying to read a lot more. I've made effort to. I've read the Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion. I've read the Witcher series. I've been getting into H.P. Lovecraft, and I'd also been reading some books by fellow authors, self-published people that I've been connecting with on Twitter, because as a writer, I feel like I should be a better reader, and so I'm really trying to not only read the classics and the older stuff, but try to jump into the new stuff of the people that I've been kind of in contact with.
Exactly. And throughout the whole writing and publishing process, what was the hardest lesson, do you think, that you had to learn?
The hardest lesson, probably, it's hard to phrase it, but taking my time and getting others to like help me out. Because I thought when I started, I was mostly ready, but it really like, you know, knocked the wind out of me sometimes when I would realize that like something went wrong and it was my fault. Whether it was I missed something in my writing or in the publishing, I didn't notice something and I needed like the help of my wife at times to really like look at something with me and a fresh set of eyes. And it was humbling, but also stressful to see like, you know, if it was left just to me, like I don't know if I could do this. I needed the support of those around me. And it was really important because in the early days of it, I was kind of not really filling people in on what I was doing, and I'd be making decisions wholly on my own. But now I know in the future, like the wife needs to be more involved, and I couldn't have done it without her. And of course, you know, my family and stuff. So it's really important to me now to have realized that, because it would have made the process a whole heck of a lot easier if from the start I had my team assembled rather than just me winging it, you know?
So we've got, that's right, you got to get some help in there sometimes, I'm sure. The Bindings of Woe by Connor Jackson. It's The Chain of Worlds, Volume 1. I'm assuming you're working on number 2 now, or number 2 and 3?
Yeah, well, the whole series I have mostly planned out already. I know all the I know the A's and the C's and the E's, but I'm just kind of filling in the B's and the D's kind of thing. But yeah, I've been working on book 2 for the last couple weeks, or maybe like month or two. But I've been a bit busy because this summer I not only was I doing all the publishing for my book, but I also finished university and graduated and got married.
Oh,
so
all
I've been
at
really,
once.
really busy in my life.
That's right. All at once. That's great.
Yeah, all in June.
All in June.
It was a lot of going on, and now I'm finally settling in now after all that big life stuff has happened, and I've finally been able to, you know, all the publishing stuff is done, the marketing stuff is mostly handled. Now I'm finally sitting down again. I'm, you know, about 40-ish pages into book 2, the first rough draft, and I've been enjoying it again. I've missed it.
Oh, good. It's The Bindings of Woe, Part 1, or Volume 1 of the Chain of Worlds series by Connor Jackson. Yeah. You've got this beautiful website up. I have it up in front of me. Tell me how we can find it.
Well, it's just called chainofworlds.com. You can put a www in front of it. And yeah, it's a nice website. The folks at Friesen Press helped me create it, and through it, you can find every single link to where you can buy the book, because luckily enough for me, it's almost everywhere. It's in physical stores like Chapters, Indigo, Barnes & Noble, and it's also digital. It's on, you know, Amazon, Kobo, Apple Books, and it's got ebook variants and hardcover, softcover, and through my website, chainofworlds.com, you can, on the bookstores page, you can find every single place that it would be at. And it's all nice and kept together. I wanted to make it convenient for people.
Exactly. It is a good website. The print versions, like you say, you've got ebook versions and nice pictures. You've got your home. Then I describe the Chain of Worlds and the bookstore, the reviews, the media, the events, and even all about yourself. So you live in British Columbia, Canada with your wife is what it says. So
yeah, I'm hoping to add more in the future, make it more of interesting about the author, and, you know, add some events, add some press stuff. But it's a fairly new website, and I'm kind of really getting into you're actually the first podcast that has had me.
So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just getting started, and you're my first, so I appreciate it.
Oh, that's good. It's the chainofworlds.com. It's a website by Connor Jackson. It'll tell you all about the Bindings of Woe, which is part 1 of the Chain of Worlds series. He's working on part 2, and we hope to hear from you again maybe next year at this time. So again, thank you very much, Connor Jackson.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'm glad you have been here. This has been really fun, new experience.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.